The last thing is you're going to print off whatever you find. Why are we printing it off? Leah?
Close read.
Because we need to close read it. So I think it would behoove us, to be a good idea, for us to review the steps for close reading. Because we've practiced them on articles that I've given you, now let's talk about how are we going to apply the close reading strategy to research that you find. So let's review. What's the first thing we do when we have a piece that we want to close read? Leah? We number the paragraphs or the sections, depending on what kind of piece you're reading. Why is it that we're numbering it? What's the purpose of numbering? Colton?
So you can go back to so you can figure out which paragraph it was in.
Right, you can refer back to it. If we're having a large group discussion, then Sierra can say, well, in paragraph 7, and we all know where she's talking about, but also when you're writing your summary and you're referring back to textual evidence, you can refer back to the specific paragraph for your classmate or for your teacher to find. What's the second step? Brock?
Chunking the text.
You chunk the text. So you take the first 3 paragraphs or the first 7 paragraphs, whatever you decide, and chunk it. Why do we chunk it? What's the purpose?
To help you focus just on one part of the story.
Right, it makes it more manageable. You look at that little section and you analyze, you go in depth on that. Have you guys ever heard the theory that it's better not to eat 3 big meals, it's better to eat like 5 little meals throughout the day? Have you ever heard that? Same idea. This is your 5 little meals. So you read a little bit and you digest it before the next piece. So it's kind of like you're snacking instead of eating a 5-course dinner and then trying to digest it all. What's step number 3? Mercedes, sorry.
Underline or highlight important information.
Underline or highlight important information. We've talked about this. How do you know these sources are all different for all of you. How do you know what's important? I'm not telling you what's important, right? Because I don't know what article you found or Mercedes has found, so how do you know what's important to underline? You come back to a focus question. Again, I'm not giving you a focus question because Carly's is different from Sierra's. What have you written that could be considered your focus question? Give you a hint. I initialed it yesterday.
The question that you made for
your topic is, at this point, your focus question. If your topic is, I'm trying to think of one that someone has said, how nutrition works in the body. That's your focus question. How does nutrition work in the body? So as you're reading, you're underlining and highlighting, trying to get the information you need based on what you said your topic is. And then you're also going to take notes in the margins using our metacognitive markers. Let's review what those metacognitive markers were. Who remembers any of the metacognitive markers? Ben?
Asterisk.
An asterisk or a star, which meant?
Just a broad statement that relates to a big idea.
Big idea, yep. And remember how we said it's good to label those big ideas? So instead of just having an asterisk and writing big idea number 1, whatever that big idea may be. So that when you go back, you can find, oh look, there's all of those big ideas that related together. What's another one?
The double question mark.
Double question mark, which means what?
To refer back. Like, you have to know what it means.
Right, double question mark is you going, what? I don't understand this. Question you need to ask in a discussion. In the case of an article, maybe it's a question you ask a classmate, maybe you come ask me. It's clarification that you need. What's another one, Sarah? An exclamation mark, which means? Something interesting. It's good for some reason. It's good writing. It's an interesting fact, not a big idea, but something noteworthy. And our last one, Leah?
single question mark.
Single question mark, which meant?
Possible.
A discussion question, something you want to bring up in class, or in this case, something you might want to focus on in your paper. So we use our metacognitive markers in the margins, but we're still taking notes. Because if you just have an exclamation mark, it's the same thing as just underlining. If you underline or highlight without notes, you're just saying, oh, this is important. Oh, this is important. You go back to write your paper and it doesn't really help you. It's the notes that's going to help you say, that's why that's important. That's the connection that I wanted to make. What's step number 4? Yes?
Reread. Reread when
Applicable. Now I'm going to focus on the word applicable. You are high schoolers, so you are now capable of deciding when do you personally need to reread something. Do you get to the end of an article and you go, wow, that was a lot of information going on? Then maybe that's a hint that you need to go back, maybe you need to reread the whole article. But maybe there's just a certain section where you have lots of double question marks, for example, and you say, I didn't understand that, I better go back and reread that chunk again. Or lots of big ideas, and you say, I think this is going to be helpful in my paper, I'm going to reread that section. So rereading, but keep that when applicable. I think if I say reread it and you think reread every single word of every piece I use, no, that's not realistic. What's realistic is you start deciding when you need to go back and do a little rereading. And what's our last step? Carson.
Writing an objective summary using the textual evidence.
Right, we're going to write an objective summary using textual evidence. Remind me what objective means. Yes? No opinions, it's the facts. This is what the article was about. And remember, if you're in doubt, go back to the one we wrote together as a class and use that as an example. How long was it? How much textual evidence does it have? What did it sound like for it to be objective? You know, how we avoided personal pronouns. I think, in my opinion, I feel. We avoided all of that. And you're going to use the textual evidence from those paragraphs that you've underlined and marked in the summary. And you know why this is especially helpful now? Because let's say you have 3 sources, and you write a paragraph for each source in your own words, you've thought about it, and you're using evidence. Where can you use that paragraph now? It's in your own words, you're using evidence. Yes? Use it in your paper, absolutely. It's already in your own words, you're not plagiarizing. What have you done? Remember when we talked about synthesizing information? How we read it, we think, and then we put it in our own words? You're not skipping that step because you had to already do it for your objective summary. So use that, put that in your paper. There's no reason not to. That's why the close reading aspect is so important when you're researching. It's going to help us avoid that dreaded P word, which is what? Plagiarism. Plagiarism's difficult. Close read, go through this process accurately, you won't have a problem with plagiarism. As long as you're making sure you're giving credit to the evidence that you use, your in-text citations, which we'll work on. As long as you give credit, you don't have to worry about plagiarizing because you've already thought about it.